If you've spent any time looking at the decentralized AI sector, you've likely noticed a familiar and deeply frustrating pattern. The market is saturated with vaporware, heavy VC unlock schedules, and circular token economies designed to trap early retail capital. This creates a frustrating dilemma if you're trying to allocate capital. You want to find genuine infrastructure that actually generates yield from external sources, without watching your position get diluted to zero by insiders cashing out. Morpheus is an active attempt to solve that specific problem. It is a functionally live infrastructure network, operating entirely on a fair launch model. To understand how it works, you have to look at what it actually does. Morpheus doesn't own any GPUs. It operates 0 data centers. It is strictly a routing layer coordinated by smart contracts on the base network. This diagram shows the core architecture. A consumer node connects directly to an independent hardware provider, and a central smart contract handles the routing and payment. There is no corporate server setting in the middle. The trade-off here is immediate. You get a system with 0 centralized corporate control, but your ability to scale the network is entirely bottlenecked by how fast you can attract independent node operators to plug in their hardware. Morpheus trades the instant scalability of a Web2 giant for true permissionless infrastructure that no single company has the authority to shut down. That permissionless ethos extends directly to the tokenomics. Morpheus operates with a hard cap of 42 million tokens. There was no pre-mine, and there is 0 allocation set aside for venture capital. Here is how the network handles its first-year emissions of 14,400 MOR per day. It splits into 5 buckets. 24% goes to capital providers, 24% to compute, 24% to code, and 24% to community. The final 4% goes into a protection fund. This gives Morpheus one of the cleanest token launches in the space. But there is a cost. Without a deep-pocketed corporate foundation retaining a massive percentage of the supply, there is no artificial war chest to pay for marketing and hype during the bootstrap phase. Every token in existence has to be earned through actual contribution to the network. That structurally removes the risk of an insider team dumping unlocked tokens on retail participants down the line. Let's look at this strictly from the perspective of a capital provider, deciding whether to deploy assets into the network. To enter, you deposit yield-bearing assets into the Morpheus contracts. That usually means staked ETH, though recent updates also support USDC, USDT, and wrapped Bitcoin. This pipeline shows where the value goes. External yield from staked assets flows directly into the Morpheus protocol. It splits that yield. Half purchases more from the automated market maker. The other half pairs with that more to build protocol-owned liquidity. As the user, you're giving up the base yield of your staked asset. In return, you receive a proportional share of the daily More token emissions allocated to the capital pool. The main constraint on your principal is time. Your initial deposit is locked for 7 days. Once that week is up, your original capital is freely withdrawable at any point. Because the protocol is constantly capturing real external yield to build its own liquidity, it creates a rising floor under the token. That mechanism separates Morpheus from projects relying entirely on circular token emissions to fake their numbers. If you have high conviction in that baseline yield mechanic, the protocol offers the power factor. Participants can voluntarily lock the more rewards they've earned back into the protocol. This multiplies your daily emission rate on a sliding scale. Pushing the slider to the maximum 6-year lock secures approximately a 10.7x multiplier on your emissions. This is a severe, irreversible trade-off. Locked more cannot be withdrawn early under any circumstances. You can extend your lock period, but you can never shorten it. The protocol is designed this way for a specific macroeconomic reason. It aggressively constrains the early sell pressure by forcing the largest participants to explicitly prove their long-term commitment to the network. The power factor is a reality check. You are trading complete, multi-year illiquidity for a chance to maximize your dominance over the network's early emissions. That covers the supply side. But for any of this to hold value, we have to look at the demand. Why would a user actually pay to route their prompt through Morpheus instead of just using ChatGPT? The primary answer is extreme, verifiable privacy. With the V7 network update, Morpheus enabled end-to-end hardware-level attestation. This routing path shows what that means. Your prompt leaves your local node, enters an Intel TDX secure enclave at the provider level, and is cryptographically bound to an NVIDIA GPU attestation before returning. No one can read your data. The cost of achieving true data sovereignty is friction. Independent providers must opt into highly complex hardware setups to offer this service, meaning the total available supply of compute is tightly constrained today. When users do want to access this private compute, they have two options. They can either stake more to earn a daily quota of inference per second credits, or they can pay per session using smart contracts. Notice that both access methods require the user to actively hold the token in the ecosystem. Value accrues to the network today because the supply is constrained, forcing users to hold more for access. The system relies on locking up tokens rather than destroying them immediately upon use. We have to acknowledge the reality of the network's current usage. Demand for this level of sovereign compute is early, and it is not entirely organic yet. To bootstrap network activity, the protocol's treasury is currently subsidizing the vast majority of compute sessions. That subsidy masks true organic price discovery. For the model to survive in the long run, it must successfully migrate away from treasury funding and rely entirely on user-funded fees. To balance supply, Morpheus uses a deflationary mechanism. When generating liquidity, 50% of targeted MOR is burned and 50% is reserved. The limitation? Deflation is driven entirely by capital generation, not compute usage. Utility spikes don't accelerate the burn rate yet. If you want to monitor how this transition is playing out in real time, you can check the Own Your Mind live tracker at ownyourmind.ai to watch the on-chain inference activity. The tokenomics are structurally deflationary by design, but the current ecosystem is still heavily reliant on treasury subsidies and capital yield to function, rather than raw compute revenue. Let's summarize into a final matrix. Interacting with the Morpheus ecosystem today means engaging with raw, early-stage infrastructure, not a polished consumer product. This network is built for two specific groups: capital allocators who operate on multi-year time horizons, and sovereignty-first users who require cryptographically verifiable privacy for their compute. If you are looking for short-term speculation, you must avoid this. The daily trading volume on decentralized exchanges is dangerously thin, making large immediate exits financially unviable without taking massive slippage. Getting involved during this bootstrap phase means accepting serious risks. You have to tolerate a small initial provider base, partial audit coverage, and multi-sig controls over key contracts that haven't transitioned to full community governance yet. Participating in Morpheus requires a stark trade-off. You are accepting deep illiquidity and high execution risk today in exchange for an early stake in a genuinely sovereign AI network. This analysis is from Own Your Mind at ownyourmind.ai, an independent research platform covering decentralized AI. No sponsors.